Sorry?
You will then remove the mask into the chat.
Oh. Yes. No. Yeah. Yeah, we can.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, DC, Commissioner Msala, CEO. Good morning, Commissioner, colleagues from the media, and good morning to the commissioners that are online and some of the media colleagues that are also online. You are welcome to this briefing by the CRL Commission, and thanks for your response, even though we are aware that some of the media houses were quite stretched in terms of personnel, given the COVID-19 challenges, but also some of the media houses have skeleton staff. But we greatly appreciated the fact that you chose to come and listen to what the CRL is about to tell the nation. I've got the chairperson of the CRL Commission, Professor David Musoma, who is going to be addressing the press briefing lightly. I've also got the deputy chair, Dr. Petu. I've got Commissioner Msala on the other side. I've got the CEO, Mr. Edward Mufatsa, and then Beverly and myself in the communication unit. Thank you very much, Chair. The journalists are ready. They want to know why we call them here. Over to you, Chair.
Good morning, South Africa, and good morning, everyone. Let me first acknowledge the presence of the media representation from different media houses this morning. The Commission is gratified that you can attend this media briefing today and wishes to thank you for prioritizing and giving support to the enormous task of promoting and protecting the cultural, religious, and linguistic rights of communities. We suppose the invitation to this meeting did not come to you as a surprise, because last week the Commission received a plethora of media reports about the alarming high rate of deaths of initiates in the Eastern Cape Province. At the time of receiving the reports, the province had lost 23 initiates, and as of yesterday, 22 December 2021, the deaths of initiates have increased to 34, albeit different causes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our constitutional mandate as a Commission to promote and protect the cultural rights and linguistic rights of communities. It is noteworthy that for people or different communities to practice or exercise their rights in terms of culture, religion, and language, they must be alive. The right to life, as enshrined in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, is sacrosanct and cannot be negotiated. It is our view that everything must be done to preserve life, while at the same time, communities are allowed to enjoy their cultural and religious rights. It is behind this background, ladies and gentlemen, that the Commission wishes to firstly pass its condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones in the ongoing initiation schools in the Eastern Cape. As a result of the reports, the Commission had to call an urgent meeting with the leadership of the province, providing oversight to initiation schools in the province, including the relevant key stakeholders that are monitoring the summer initiation schools within the province. In this meeting, we wanted the province to firstly confirm if indeed what is covered in the media reports relating to deaths of initiates is correct. Secondly, to understand the causes of deaths, as there were a number of mitigating factors put in place to avoid this kind of incidences during initiation season. Thirdly, to understand the interventions that the province has put in place to alleviate further casualties in the province, with specific reference to the current schools taking place. In the report from the province, it is confirmed that as of yesterday, the number of deaths had escalated from 23 to 34. These are unfortunate incidences and are many and mainly dominant in OR Tambo and Alfred Nzo districts, although there are also few sporadic cases in other areas. The report had covered the exact places of where deaths had occurred, dates of birth of initiates, dates of circumcision, date of death, legality status, cause of death, and case numbers opened with the South African police services. Although the Commission understands that the current summer initiation schools coincided with a period of political transition at the local government level and said to have had a bearing on support provided to other districts and local initiation fora, the Commission is not convinced that it provides justification for the death of the initiates in the province, and more should be done to prevent the loss of lives. We have, however, noted that the majority of cases happened in illegal schools. We have also noted that except 2 or 3 cases which are alleged to have happened naturally and through abuse of initiates, the majority of cases are still awaiting the post-mortem results. After 3 hours of intense and rigorous engagement, the Commission makes the following recommendations and are already communicated to those that attended the meeting yesterday from the province. They are as follows. 1, that all illegal schools in the province must be closed with immediate effect. Those tasked with such responsibilities in terms of the customary initiation schools, Children's Act, Provincial Initiation Act, Provincial Initiation Task Team, local municipalities, traditional leaders of which these unfortunate incidences are taking place under their jurisdiction, and others must ensure that such schools are closed down. Linked to the above process, the provincial leadership tasked with these responsibilities should ensure that the rescue centers are erected to allow the initiates from illegal schools to finish their course. 2, that all deaths must be accounted for and consequence management applied across the board for those responsible for gross negligence in the initiation schools. As a result, the Commission calls on the South African Police Services to fast-track the processing of already open cases to bring those responsible to book, and that should serve, and that successful prosecutions be publicized to serve as a deterrent. 3, that the State Security Agency be deployed to track and identify illegal schools in far-flung bush areas, including homes, in order to give early warning signs about impending deaths that may occur that can that an illegal act has been committed. 4, that the current risk adjustment strategy be reinforced so that some of the identified targets and activities must continue in order to obviate the current alarming situation of the highest escalation of deaths of the initiates. If the risk strategy, the risk adjusted strategy, is effectively and efficiently implemented, it can go closer to achieving the zero-death solution. 5, that specialized courts be introduced to fast-track charges and prosecution to deal with initiation-related crimes. 6, that all technical support teams, as identified in the Customary Initiation Act of 2021, should meet urgently for the express purpose of mapping out a strategy to address the state of disaster which is emerging in the initiation schools, being under the attack of COVID-19 and the alarming deaths of the young people in the initiation schools. 7, that kings and queens should receive timeless reports of what is happening in the initiation schools in their jurisdiction, so that where possible, interventions can be made to obviate the death of initiates. It would be prudent to reinforce the hands-on approach of the traditional leaders, that before the initiation season starts, each traditional leader submits a report to both government and the kings and the queens on initiation compliance, state of readiness, awareness, education campaigns conducted on the process of initiation, the do's and don'ts thereof. The report would serve as an accountability mechanism. 8, that participation of women groups in Mbumba Yamakusikazi in the Eastern Cape must continue to assist the smooth process of initiation, especially safeguarding the welfare and safety of crimes that are likely to happen in those schools. 9, that the Eastern Cape MEC of Social Development fast track and tackle the issue of the breakdown and disintegration of the families as a result of the absence of the fathers head on, as it is gradually becoming a provincial crisis, especially since single mothers struggle to find a male relative to take charge of the initiation process of the child. 10, that the province must approach government to resolve the challenges of unfunded mandate, meaning that legislation has been passed without being allocated resources to implement it, including pricing and the number of initiates allowed in initiation schools. In conclusion, the Commission considers the meeting held as high as watershed and the recommendations significantly far-reaching in its demands for legislative compliance and accountability to address the intractable problem of the deaths of initiates, which have brought untold pain and hurt in many families and the nation at large, by robbing them of their sons in the prime of their youth, and the nation of its prospective artisans, thinkers, doctors, teachers, leaders, engineers, and future husbands. What a loss. In less than a decade, the province has lost 696 initiates, excluding many young men who have undergone penal amputation. thereby losing their manhood due to botched circumcision. If effective daily coordination and monitoring in the implementation of the risk-adjusted strategy are done, the current death machine of initiates under the pretext or cover of culture in the Eastern Cape will come to an end. Culture is a way of life, identity, education, and technology. And therefore, culture does not kill. The Commission will keep its watchful eye on the implementation of the current strategy, and it is expected to receive reports on a weekly basis until we are satisfied that the achievement of zero death of initiates in the Eastern Cape is on course. I thank you.
Well, thank you, Chair, for the statement. I would now open this time for questions. If I may ask the media houses that are here and those that are online to indicate the question that they would like to raise, but start by introducing yourself with media house. And then I'm going to take about 3 questions at a time. Let me start from here at the moment, okay, and see if there are questions. Then I'm going to go online. Okay, I see a hand here. Okay, let me start here. Yes, ma'am.
Right, the Minister from the Ministry of Africa. In one of your recommendations, this is more of a clarity-seeking question. In one of your recommendations, you recommended that rescue centers be erected next to the illegal circumcision centers or initiation schools. Why would you allow the initiation to continue, given the fact that the number of people that are dying has increased to 34? My second question is, the Commissioner had previously, in such instances, called for the suspension of these processes. Why is it not doing so this time?
Okay, any other question? Maybe Chair, well, let's come back to you for that one. I will check online as well.
Thank you so much. The issue of initiation as a cultural practice is one that cannot simply be wiped out in a stroke of a pen. We listened to the extent to which culture in the Eastern Cape has been part of their lives, and that it is the wish of each and every young man to go through this process. Now, we debated about the possibility of closure of all the initiation schools. But here we're dealing not with all the initiation schools. Hence, the rescue of initiates takes place in an illegal initiation schools. And the rescue center is not necessarily built near the illegal initiation school. It is the prerogative of the province to find a suitable place where the young men can attend and complete their initiation process. This time around, we are gratified with the strategy put in place. We want to monitor the strategy, and when everything else fails, then we'll consider the next step. But we want to journey with the province to do what is right. and to focus on the hotspots and to ensure that the traditional leaders, the queens and kings, are hands-on, because these issues or these incidences are taking place in the jurisdiction in which they are responsible. This is part of our contribution to the nation building in the protection of the cultural rights.
Thank you, Chair. Can I take Tao? I see the
I just want to ask, my first question is that when you speak about the number of deaths, Chair, are we saying that these deaths are only from illegal schools? One. Two is, if deaths continue to rise at this point, and you are still monitoring the process, will there be harsher repercussions or anything that you will do going forward? Because at this point you're saying you're monitoring.
Yes.
Linda again from South Africa. Did the province indicate as to the number of illegal initiation schools that are in the province at the moment, and what exactly is being done to make sure that those that are operating are found before young people die?
Okay, over to you, Chair.
Thank you so much. It must be understood that deaths are not only occurring in illegal schools, but illegal schools account for the majority of deaths. For example, in this instance, the legal schools account for 12 deaths, while illegal schools account for 18 deaths. Now, the reason we emphasize the risk adjusted strategy is that consequences, management, and accountability, which has not been the trademark before, will now be enforced. For those found having committed gross negligence, which led to the death of the initiates, must face the music. And the risk-adjusted strategy will serve as accountability management tool for the Commission, which is why we are putting our watchful eye on the strategy to see its impact and deliverables in order to ensure that we get to what we call zero death solution of the Eastern Cape. Sorry?
Can you rephrase? I'm going to go online now. You just finish with you guys. Can you rephrase your question if you are not satisfied with it? Okay, another one. Okay. Can I go online? I'll come back to you. Brian, I see you have raised your hand. Can you give us your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Just introduce yourself, Brian, citizen, etc., then so that we can take your question.
I've got two questions, in fact. The first one is trying to establish in which part of the Eastern Cape are these deaths taking place. And secondly, are there any processes to lay charges against those behind these botched circumcisions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Two district municipalities have been identified as the hotspots: Alfred Nzo and OR Tambo. And the cases have been reported to the police, and we are told arrests are being made, and of course prosecution will ensue, which is why we are calling for the active participation of the SAPS and NPA in trying to help solve this particular problem. Let me also add that the recommendations we have given is that no one should be spared for committing gross violations or gross negligence. The only thing we are stating unequivocally is that illegal schools are not allowed. Just by hearing that an illegal school has been opened, it must be closed and those responsible arrested and prosecuted. That is the bottom line. There is no tolerance for illegal school. So we are not going to be hearing that illegal schools account for a number of deaths going forward. We are calling on the province to make sure that the law sticks. We can't have legislation that indicates or outlaw illegal activities, illegal schools, and continue to tolerate them. So that is the bottom line. Thank you.
Okay, group, we can continue the discussion.
How much accountability are the custodians of traditional practices taking in these deaths, particularly the kings and queens, as you rightfully put it, that these traditional practices are a way of life for them, and one can only assume that the kings and the queens would be at the forefront of everything that happens. So how much accountability are they going to take for these deaths?
Thank you so much. If you look at the Customary Initiation Act, I think Section 20, subsection 1, it should be either E or C. It talks about the traditional leaders as the overall responsible for initiation schools. In other words, the buck stops with traditional leaders, queens and the kings. The recommendation we made was to ensure that the kings and the queens and the traditional leaders are hands-on if the success of the culture of initiation must continue. Unless we do that, the agenda slowly and gradually is ensuring that the culture is discredited and the culture is destroyed. We are making that point. So the buck stops with the kings and queens and traditional leaders, including, of course, the structures of government.
Thanks. I don't see any further question online. Brian, I see your hand. Is it a legacy hand?
No, my question has been answered.
Okay, okay. So you can lower your hand. I think with that, Chair, if there is no any other question, perhaps would come to the closure of this briefing. Unless if there is one or two points you want to emphasize before we conclude.
Well, I think I've already made the point clearly that we have come to the crossroads. No nation prides itself by committing genocides of its sons. No nation can be proud of. And no culture can be blamed for this, because the deaths of the initiates is a consequence of human negligence, including the criminal activities and commercialization of the practice in the main. Thank you so much.
With that, colleagues, we have come to the end of this briefing. Thank you very much for your time, and this meeting is adjourned. The chair will be taking some questions as well. There are two that have requested to do one-on-one. Okay, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. All of you colleagues who have registered, signed the register, we will send you the statement a few minutes after we are done. Okay? Okay, the meeting is adjourned, so thank you very much. And make sure that your parking ticket parking tickets keep them to the name. So that we take some few pictures.
Okay. Oh.
It's mostly in Eastern Cape. I'm not saying other provinces, the higher portion always comes from the Eastern Cape. What is it that the rights are not made violent?
When the best practices in other provinces, and we also believe that it is good to learn from others. Including Eastern Cape, the other regions that moved best practices. But it would appear that certain regional leadership are not willing to learn from others. And because the Mashambis they initiate 60,000 every 4 years. At the last count I saw, it was the death of one person.